Hello, I'm your Holy Bible explainer, like Spider-Man. Friendly neighborhood Holy Bible explainer. We are reading Deuteronomy 3, the defeat of Og, king of Bashan. So Moses, the leader of the Israelites that left Egypt, he is speaking. Next, we turned and went up along the road toward Bashan, and Og, king of Bashan, with his whole army, marched out to meet us in battle at Edrei. Now, you know how I remember how to pronounce EI? There's a song called Gadol Elohai. I. It could be I or A. But Gadol Elohai means how great is our God. There's a song that goes, how great is our God. Sing with me, how great is our God. All the world will see or sing, how great is our God. It goes, Gadol Elohai, Shiaki Gadol Elohai, Kol echad yireh, Ki Gadol Elohai. So the Elohai is spelled E, capital E, Lohei. So Elohai is our God, and Elohei, capital E, Lohai or Hai is my God. So that's how I remember it. Gadol Elohai, so Edrei. The Lord said to me, to Moses, do not be afraid of Og, him, for I have delivered him into your hands, along with his whole army and his land. Do to him what you did to Sihon, king of the Amorites, who reigned in Heshbon. So the Lord our God also gave into our hands Og, king of Bashan, and all his army. We struck them down, Moses said, leaving no survivors. So, I've seen YouTube videos where people ask a pastor, I don't understand God. He seems not to be my kind of God or person. He just killed all these people, men, women, and children. However, there are movies that you could watch in the theater that are kind of violent, like Tom Cruise movies, or where he kills a bunch of people. He'll break their neck, then he pretends to be tied up, then he somehow loosens his bonds, and then he does some super, parkour move and kicks the guy's face. These stories are kind of like that. They're maybe more for men. This is like a war movie. Like Saving Private Ryan. That movie. Saving Private Ryan is a war movie. Those things really happen. War is not pretty. So the Lord our God, we struck them down. At that time we took all his cities. There was not one of the 60 cities that we did not take from them. The whole region of Argob, Og's kingdom in Bashan, all these cities were fortified with high walls and with gates and bars, and there were also a great many unwalled villages. We completely destroyed them, as we had done with Sihon, king of Heshbon, destroying every city, men, women, and children, but all the livestock and the plunder from their cities we carried off for ourselves. So at that time we took from these two kings of the Amorites territory east of the Jordan, from the Arnon Gorge as far as Mount Hermon. Hermon is called Sirion by the Sidonians. The Amorites call it Senir. He took all the towns on the plateau and all Gilead. Okay, so Gilead is in Moab. I think you could safely call this area Moab. And all Bashan as far as Salekah and Edrei. Towns of Og's kingdom in Bashan. Og, king of Bashan, was the last of the Rephaites. His bed was decorated with iron and was more than 9 cubits long and 4 cubits wide. So there's a note here. 4 cubits wide. 14 feet long and 6 feet wide. 14 feet long. So a cubit is like a foot. 4 cubits, but 6 longer than a foot. That's not, I guess it's a very long bed. 6 feet wide is not that wide of a bed. It is still in the Rabbah of the Ammonites. So I guess he's tall, maybe he smelled, he's stinky, so that's his bed, Maybe he had another one that was 14 feet long and 12 feet wide for him and his woman. So he must have been a very tall person. 14 feet long. Maybe he was 8 feet tall. Division of the land is the title of the next section. Of the land that we took over at that time, I gave the Reubenites and the Gadites the territory north of Aroer by the Arnon Gorge. If you watch my earlier videos, the Reubenites and Gadites are part of Moses' group. But they looked at the land after beating these guys up. Sihon and Og. They wanted the land. And Moses was kind of like, no, what we want to do is cross over the Jordan, and then we'll take all the land that God said that is promised to us, and then we'll divide it all up amongst us. But these two groups, the Reubenites and the Gadites, they wanted land before they went into the promised land, east of the Jordan. So they wanted the territory north of Aroer, including half the hill country of Gilead, together with its towns, the rest of Gilead, and also all of Bashan, the kingdom of Og. Hold on. Spoiler alert. Later on, there will be an awesome person named Elijah, and they say he's from Gilead. So if they said he's from Gilead, then they're calling him an outsider. They're calling him an outsider. In Hebrew, he is called Eliyahu Hanavi, Elijah the prophet, and he is a Gileadi. He is a Gileadite. So the rest of Gilead and also all of Bashan, the kingdom of Og, I gave to the half tribe of Manasseh or Manasseh. The whole region of Argob in Bashan used to be known as a land of Rephaites. Jair, a descendant of Manasseh, took the whole region of Argob as far as the border of the Geshurites and the Maacathites. It was named after him, so that to this day Bashan is called Havoth Jair. And I gave Gilead to Machir, but to the Reubenites and the Gadites I gave the territory extending from Gilead down to the Arnon Gorge, the middle of the gorge being the border, and out to the Jabbok River, which is the border of the Ammonites. Its western border was the Jordan in the Arabah, from Kinnereth to the Sea of Arabah, that is the Dead Sea. So the Dead Sea is called the Sea of Arabah, below the slopes of Pisgah. So you may be wondering, were they calling Elijah an outsider, or? But this territory belongs to two groups, Reubenites and Gadites. I guess everyone can think about it. Okay, I commanded you at that time, the Lord your God has given you this land to take possession of it, but all your able-bodied men armed for battle must cross over ahead of the other Israelites. However, your wives, your children, and your livestock, I know you have much livestock, may stay in the towns I have given you until the Lord gives rest to your fellow Israelites as he has to you, and they too have taken over the land that the Lord your God is giving them across the Jordan. After that, each of you may go back to the possession I have given you. The next section, Moses forbidden to cross the Jordan. At that time I commanded Joshua. It's still Moses speaking. Or Yehoshua. You have seen with your own eyes all that the Lord your God has done to these two kings. The Lord will do the same to all the kingdoms over there where you are going. Do not be afraid of them. Remember, if you watch my earlier videos, they sent spies before these guys, Moses and the Israelites, they're getting close to this land that was promised to them. They sent spies, mainly Joshua and Caleb and 10 other spies. And some of them said, the people there are really tall and we're afraid. So, see, God the Creator, the Lord, our God, He hears us. If they're afraid of tall, enemies, the Lord showed them that they can defeat both, Sihon and Og. You saw that one of them might have been really tall. You have to read very carefully. So they were probably, all of these, Sihon probably was really tall too. They just defeated two kingdoms of tall people So Moses is saying, there's this word see. Moses is probably saying, see, you did it. You did it twice. So we can now go in there, and you don't need to be afraid of tall enemies. And the Lord will fight for us, and we'll just wipe them all out. That sounds mean, but that's what it says. At that time I pleaded with the Lord, Sovereign Lord, you have begun to show to your servant your greatness and your strong hand. For what God is there in heaven or on earth who can do the deeds and mighty works you do? Let me go over and see the good land beyond the Jordan, that fine hill country and Lebanon. But because of you, the Lord was angry with me and would not listen to me. That is enough, the Lord said. I think that is enough is, I think when the Lord speaks, sometimes you don't understand that, I don't know how to explain it. The Lord can be fearsome as a warrior himself, but he could speak so nicely, to his own. I think what the Lord is saying here is he feels that Moses has done enough with his life. He needs to stop being the leader. I think you have done enough, Moses. Do not speak to me any more about this matter. Go up to the top of Pisgah and look west and north and south and east. Look at the land with your own eyes, since you are not going to cross this Jordan. But commission Yehoshua, and encourage and strengthen him, for he will lead this people across and will cause them to inherit the land that you will see. So we stayed in the valley near Beth Peor. Let's go on to Deuteronomy 4. Deuteronomy 4. This next section is titled Obedience Commanded. Now Israel, hear the decrees and laws I am about to teach you. Follow them so that you may live and may go in and take possession of the land the Lord, the God of your ancestors, is giving you. Do not add to what I command. Okay, remember this. And do not subtract from it. Later on, spoiler alert, you may read a book called Revelation, and there's a warning not to add or take away from anything in the book, and it comes with a harsh warning that God will beat you all up. So it has to do with commands, what God, the Creator, the Lord, is commanding you to do. But keep the commands of the Lord your God that I give you. So add and subtract. I think it does mean don't make up any more rules, but the ones that he gives you, you could count them. He gives you 10 commands. There's 10 commands, and it probably also means that you have to obey them. Yep. You have to obey them. Keep the commands. You saw with your own eyes what the Lord did at Baal Peor, The Lord your God destroyed from among you everyone who followed the Baal of Peor. But all of you who held fast to the Lord your God are still alive today. See, I have taught you decrees and laws, as the Lord my God commanded me, so that you may follow them in the land you are entering to take possession of it. Observe them carefully, for this will show your wisdom and understanding to the nations, who will hear about all these decrees and say, surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people. What other nation is so great as to have their gods near them the way the Lord our God is near us whenever we pray to him? And what other nation is so great as to have such righteous decrees and laws as this body of laws I am setting before you today? Only be careful and watch yourselves closely, so that you do not forget the things your eyes have seen, or let them fade from your heart as long as you live. Teach them to your children and to their children after them. Remember the day you stood before the Lord your God at Horeb, when he said to me, assemble the people before me to hear my words, so that they may learn to revere me as long as they live in the land, and may teach them to their children. You came near and stood at the foot of the mountain, while it blazed with fire to the very heavens, with black clouds and deep darkness. Then the Lord spoke to you out of the fire. Whoa. I just remember Moses. You may have heard a tree talk to him. I made it sound funny. God talked to him from a burning tree, the burning bush. So, you have to watch my earlier videos. The Lord, that's God again, he talked to all these people as a burning mountain. You heard the sound of words, but saw no form. There was only a voice. He declared to you his covenant, the Ten Commandments, which he commanded you to follow, and then wrote them on 2 stone tablets. And the Lord directed me at that time to teach you the decrees and laws you are to follow in the land that you are crossing the Jordan to possess. The next section is called Idolatry is Forbidden. You know, what keeps coming to my mind, did you please pay attention to what I was saying? Once I make websites. I'm not a designer. I work with something like a CMS. But I met with a guy named Norman, and he's a rich guy. He owns a Sears, but mainly he sells furniture. And he had a little altar. He's a Chinese American. And he just asked me, what do you think of this? Is this idolatry? And I was kind of surprised. So you can see that this is true, you know. Pardon me. Hello, guy. Here in Deuteronomy, we are reading Deuteronomy 4. Moses is telling people, if you have these laws of God's, you know, these laws that are written down in the Holy Bible, They are from God. God gave them from heaven, to you. Moses is telling the Israelites, remember, God gave you these laws from heaven. He spoke these laws to you, and then Moses taught them more laws, like decrees. So there must really be something about these laws that intelligent people, when they think of them, they wonder, they must be important. And here in verse 6, I'll repeat it. Surely this nation, surely these laws are wise. What other nation, this is verse 7, is so great? God is close. I think that if you are a Christian watching my video, you may not realize it, but perhaps someone of a different faith can see that you are closer to God. But he asked me, back to the Norman. He asked me, what do you think? Is it wrong to have an altar? Is it idolatry? So here we see in verse 15, you saw no form of any kind the day the Lord spoke to you at Horeb out of the fire. Therefore watch yourselves very carefully, so that you do not become corrupt and make for yourselves an idol. Okay, so very simply, God is invisible. So any statue, an idol is like a statue. Any image of any shape, whether formed is, sculpted, like a man or a woman, or like any animal or on earth, or any bird that flies in the air, or like any creature that moves along the ground, or any fish in the waters below. Because we're at verse 18. I don't know why people in the past, they like to take like a bird head and put it on a man's body. So that is the reason there are references to animals. We're at verse 18. Or like any creature, okay, verse 19. And when you look up to the sky and see the sun, the moon, and the stars, all the heavenly array, do not be enticed into bowing down to them and worshiping things the Lord your God has apportioned to all the nations under heaven. So in the past, people had this tendency to think the sun is a god, or that there's a sun god. I think some people would lie and say, I'm the sun god. But if you really think about it, people in the past might just be saying that, that sun is a god. And God is saying, no, that's not me. God, Moses is saying he's invisible, but you heard him, and then he showed up as a burning mountain. He was on the mountain, and there was fire, and it was extremely scary. God made sure that it was supernatural. Someone didn't just set the mountain on fire. The mountain was burning, and there was strange clouds, and there was two kinds of darkness. that seemed to be alive, and there was lightning, and there was thunder, and there was booming, and there was like some sort of trumpet blowing. So, no, someone didn't just goof around and light a big fire on the mountain. And again, Moses said, you heard him, you didn't see anyone, but you heard God talking, and it frightened you. So now Moses continues, but as for you, the Lord took you and brought you out of the iron smelting furnace, out of Egypt, to be the people of his inheritance. So that to be his people, and he would give you land and many belongings. Recall that when the Israelites left Egypt, they plundered them. The Egyptians gave them gold, silver, and clothing. The Lord was angry with me because of you, and he solemnly swore that I would not cross the Jordan and enter the good land the Lord your God is giving you as your inheritance. I will die in this land. I will not cross the Jordan. But you are about to cross over and take possession of that good land. Be careful not to forget the covenant of the Lord your God. Don't forget the covenant that he made with you. Do not make for yourselves an idol in the form of anything the Lord your God has forbidden. For the Lord your God is a consuming fire, a jealous God. So let's revisit whether or not some Chinese people are into idols. I actually do not think so, because those are they're considered gods. They are not trying to create a statue of the Creator God. After you have had children and grandchildren, and have lived in the land a long time, if you then become corrupt and make any kind of idol, doing evil in the eyes of the Lord your God, and arousing his anger, I call the heavens and the earth as witnesses against you this day, that you will quickly perish from the land that you are crossing the Jordan to possess. You will not live there long, but will certainly be destroyed. So remember that Egyptians, they had idols. But yeah, it's complex. Moses keeps saying that this God, the real God, is called the Lord your God, the Lord, my God, the Lord our God. So he wants the Israelites to be faithful, to throw away all these statues. You have to watch my earlier videos. And all they have is this one God, the highest. He is called El Elyon. Remember earlier in another video, God told Abraham to cut off the foreskin of his penis. he's saying, I want God wants his people. Back then it's the Israelites, now it's Christians. To be different, you know. He has requirements. I'm not wrong. if they have idols, it is not a statue of God. But God doesn't hate anyone. I don't think so. You know, if you're not a Christian, then why are you wrong in doing it? If you're a Christian, then you shouldn't have them. You can't be a faithful Christian and have them, because God would tell you, you gotta throw them away. You have to watch some earlier videos. The Lord, this is verse 27, the Lord will scatter you among the peoples, and only a few of you will survive among the nations to which the Lord will drive you. There you will worship man-made gods of wood and stone, which cannot see or hear or eat or smell. But if from there you seek the Lord your God, you will find him, if you seek him with all your heart and with all your soul. When you are in distress, and all these things have happened to you, then in later days you will return to the Lord your God and obey him. For the Lord your God is a merciful God. He will not abandon or destroy you, or forget the covenant with your ancestors, which he confirmed to them by oath. The next section is the Lord is God. Ask now about the former days, long before your time, from the day God created human beings, on the earth. Ask from one end of the heavens to the other, has anything so great as this ever happened? Or has anything like it ever been heard of? Has any other people heard the voice of God, speaking out of fire, as you have and lived? Has any God ever tried to take for himself one nation out of another nation, by testings, by signs and wonders, by war, by a mighty hand and an outstretched arm, or by great and awesome deeds, like all the things the Lord your God did for you in Egypt before your very eyes? You were shown these things so that you might know that the Lord is God. Besides him there is no other. From heaven he made you hear his voice to discipline you. On earth he showed you his great fire, and you heard his words from out of the fire. Because he loved your ancestors and chose their descendants after them, he brought you out of Egypt by his presence and his great strength, to drive out before you nations greater and stronger than you, and to bring you into their land, to give it to you for your inheritance, as it is today. Acknowledge and take to heart this day that the Lord is God in heaven above, and on the earth below. There is no other. Keep his decrees and commands, which I am giving you today, so that it may go well with you and your children after you, and that you may live long in the land the Lord your God gives you for all time. The next section is called Cities of Refuge. Then Moses set aside 3 cities east of the Jordan, to which anyone who had killed a person could flee if they had unintentionally killed a neighbor without malice aforethought. They could flee into one of these cities and save their life. The cities were these: Bezer in the wilderness plateau for the Reubenites, Ramoth in Gilead for the Gadites. Okay, so Elijah was a Gadite. But I don't know. I think they might have been calling him an outsider because these areas are still outside of the promised land. And, he always came against kings and high priests. And, they were always in Jerusalem, like New York, or, somewhere cool. They were saying maybe, Elijah's from some small place, unimportant, unimportant person from an unimportant place. And Golan in Bashan for the Manassites. The next section is called Introduction to the Law. This is the law Moses set before the Israelites. These are the stipulations, decrees, and laws Moses gave them when they came out of Egypt and were in the valley near Beth Peor, east of the Jordan, in the land of Sihon, king of the Amorites, who reigned in Heshbon and was defeated by Moses and the Israelites as they came out of Egypt. They took possession of his land. They took it. They beat him up and took it from him. And the land of Og, king of Bashan, the two Amorite kings east of the Jordan. This land extended from Aroer on the rim of the Arnon Gorge to Mount Sarion, that is Hermon. I think Mount Hermon is an important mountain. So, spoiler alert, there's some important mountains. One is Mount Sinai. As we read, that's where God spoke. The Creator, the Lord our God, He spoke to the Israelites, with Moses and Aaron around. And then there's another one, I mentioned Elijah. There's Moriah, not Mariah Carey. It's Moriah, Moriah, not Mariah Carey, the singer, Mount Moriah. Elijah would go to Mount Moriah. And here's another mountain, Hermon. And included all the Arabah east of the Jordan as far as the Dead Sea. Remember, the Dead Sea is the Sea of Arabah, below the slopes of Pisgah. That's Deuteronomy 4. Thank you for joining me. I know this is a very long video. If you have any questions, feel free to drop me a line. In my email, or you can leave a comment and I'll respond. Thank you. Keep God first. He'll take you places.